Welcome, everybody. Another episode, The Update. Saul Klein, John Reilly, I'm Tristan. I am convinced now that we will never stop running out of news for you.
As long as the foundation, Tristan, is litigation in the real estate industry, you're probably right.
This is crazy, man. It's crazy. All right, where do you want to start with the craziness? Where should we start with Zillow?
Yeah, well, actually, we should, and we'll probably be there for a while, unfortunately for Zillow. And but John, why don't you start talking a little bit about the one of the latest Zillow cases?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the update is that they have just about completed the discovery phase in the case, in which it's all focused around Zillow's listing access policy, in which listings, if they're not listed in the MLS within 24 hours, then they're not going to be able to be shown on Zillow. That's the Zillow ban, as I think they call it. So
Got
what
it.
Compass did was Compass filed an immediate preliminary injunction motion, saying basically the court should come in and block this Zillow ban and enjoin it because it's something that's unfair competition. Zillow feels it should be open to everyone, and the Compass procedure seems to favor the private networks, and this could have a bad effect on the consumer. So they've been battling this out in the with interrogatories and depositions. And actually, it's in the discovery phase that I get pretty excited because here's where you read all the nitty gritty, all of the stuff, because basically what the discovery is aimed at is making sure that all the evidence that's going to be produced in court has already been argued for it. And so thereafter, once the discovery period closes, then there won't be any new evidence that can be injected into the trial. So it all has to be surfaced now, and all of this motion is actually public record. So if you want to take deep dives into what the arguments are going to be, they've been happening, and the key date is the attorneys for Zillow and for Compass made their final arguments last week. And tomorrow, I'm sorry, on the 5th of December, where they're going to finally have the Judge Vargas, is going to come down and say, okay, the discovery is now over with. And the judges are going to take a couple of weeks to come up with their decision as to whether to impose this preliminary injunction or whether to allow it to go through. And so it's a big battle between
It's a big
Zillow
one.
and
What do
True.
you think? What do you think happens from what you're seeing, either of you?
Well, I think that what the judges basically said, it comes down to will irreparable harm be done to Compass? If the preliminary injunction is not upheld. And so weighing everything, I think it's going to be a little bit probably in favor, of Zillow not being subject to this preliminary injunction. But we won't know for at least until December 5th and maybe a week or two afterwards. It could be a good Christmas present
Well,
for
this is
Oh, for it
more,
depends for who, John.
that's for one of them.
it'll give us more to talk about regardless.
Oh yeah, we'll
That's
have
true.
plenty to talk about this one in right around Christmas time.
So
All right.
this is Compass and Zillow.
Yeah,
And so this
Yeah.
actually covers a lot of different things. You mentioned the discovery period, John, and that's when they do the depositions. And for part of my career, I did a lot of expert witness work. And I used to love doing the expert witness work, in particular, reading all of the depositions. Now, very few of the cases that I ever advised on went to court because they usually settled. But reading the depositions was always just an amazing education to see what people did and what they said, and it just fascinating if if you have a passion for real estate and real estate law. So this is Zillow and Compass, and the issue kind of revolves around a number of things. One of the things had to do that's kind of woven into this is coming soon and clear cooperation and private networks. And so, and even IDX rules and blanket opt out. And there's just a lot of pieces. But basically, what Compass had, they got this marketing idea that it's a 3-step process, and they believe that they should be able to let the sellers make the decision. We won't get into the conversations whether or not sellers are informed enough to make the decision, but where sellers can make the decision that maybe they can test the market before it actually goes into the MLS. And so Compass instituted this. And what Zillow said was, if you do that, we're not going to let your listings be on Zillow, right? And so that's this rule that Zillow has, and Compass is challenging that rule. And Compass says, well, we don't want you to be able to enforce that rule till we get through court. And Zillow said, because if you do, it's going to cause irreparable harm to us. And what Zillow is saying, heck with you, we're going to start now. Right? Is that kind of the crux to all of this?
It is. And, one thing I'll add is the extent of the information you can find out, because there was a term I hadn't run across before called ESI, electronically stored information. This is where you can get all of the emails that are relevant to it, all of the text, all of the social media posts that are relevant to it. That's all discoverable material. And that's where there's a lot of juicy stuff. We've also seen this in the case with NAR and the DOJ, where the DOJ has these civil investigative demands where they can get all of this information in discovery. So it's extensive. The nice little juicy information you can find in those documents.
We saw a lot of that juicy stuff come out. So
that's right.
All right. That's one. That's just one. Can we talk about RESPA? Because you sent me, let me pop it up before. Where's that email? Here it is. Armstrong versus Zillow. Federal class action alleging that Zillow orchestrated an illegal nationwide scheme in which real estate agents were pressured via access to high valued buyer leads to steer consumers to all Zillow stuff. That's that one.
In particular, loans.
Yeah. There you go. This is the one you sent me. Where do we start with this? Because I think all of the slides you sent me on this one pertain to this, correct?
Yeah. This is so this is another one of these Zillow cases. Now, I would say I believe Zillow's probably got some of the best attorneys in the world advising them. So when Zillow institutes a program, my belief is it's probably been vetted by very good attorneys, and it probably is compliant with the law. That's what I would believe, just because, they've been around for a while. They're reputable. They're a target. Everybody's looking at them.
Yep.
So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt here that what they're doing is probably legal. Now, at the same time, John and I, we've been teaching about RESPA for years. And it looks to us like this kind of thing is like a violation of RESPA. Now, maybe it's not. Like I said, I'm sure they got good legal advice, but there's a plaintiff, Armstrong, and this is a class action, right? Where they're going to go out and say, do you think you've been affected? Did you live in Camp Lejeune during these years? If you did, contact us, right? Did a class action litigation against Zillow saying that Zillow provided good leads to people who steered consumers to their loan program and withheld those good leads from people who didn't. Now, you're probably familiar, Tristan, with what are the two? Zillow's got a couple of names for their lead generation programs.
Yeah, we had Premier Agent, and then they just switched from the name Flex to Preferred. That's their new
Preferred.
name. Yep.
So what this lawsuit is saying is that there's a violation of RESPA. And here's the law itself, United States Code, Section
Mhm.
2607A, that prohibits kickbacks and unearned fees. Now, we know that in real estate, right? If you ever sold real estate, you know service connected fees, illegal. You're very careful about whether or not you tie title insurance or escrow, right? Because you don't want to violate RESPA. And so what the
Exactly.
plaintiff is saying is that this program that Zillow has for distributing leads is a violation of this particular section of RESPA that prohibits kickbacks and unearned fees. And here's the quote, here's the law itself. No person shall give and no person shall accept any fee, kickback, or anything of value pursuant to any agreement or understanding, oral or otherwise, that business incident to or a part of a real estate settlement service involving a federally related mortgage loan shall be referred to any person. Of course, most of the loans are sold to Fannie and Freddie, so they're in this finance system.
Hmm.
And to give anything of value for that lead is according to what we're seeing in this case, a violation of RESPA. So that's the complaint basically. And the key claim is Zillow allegedly has tied access to buyer leads, a valuable asset, to an
Hmm.
agent's ability to generate the Zillow home loan pre-approvals.
Hmm.
Recommend to the buyer, without the buyer really understanding, this claim goes on to say, that Zillow home loans should be providing you, or is an opportunity to provide the loan, and the plaintiff believes the consumers are harmed by this and they're breaching their fiduciary duty. We used to always have, and I don't know whether it was the right way to practice or not,
Hmm.
but people used to say, well, if you recommend anybody, always recommend three. Do you ever remember that?
All the time, dude. Three of
Right?
Sure.
everything.
Don't recommend one, recommend three. And it looks like this is saying, well, what's happening is agents for the good leads, quid pro quo, give the agents the good leads and they'll recommend their buyers go to Zillow home loans. That seems to be the foundation of this, huh, John?
Yeah, and they even have penalties imposed about, uh, and it works the opposite way. If it turns out that the particular agent is getting a lot of business, they're not going to be referring the new business to that particular agent, believe it or not. So it's a very unusual type of
Huh.
referral program.
I'm going to show you something, guys, because I obviously I talked about this on social media, right? I brought up this whole thing about Zillow being they're coming after Zillow like it's the mob, right? But when we take a look at the comments, and there were quite a few on this one, um, things like this are dangerous for them. As a former Zillow Flex agent, I'm not surprised by the charges. I never agreed with how the program operated or how agents were instructed to work under it. It didn't align with transparency or clients' best interests, which is why I chose to step away. And you go through this comments inside of just one post. I mean, the post did quite well. We had 155,000 views so far. But when we take a look at this in the comments itself from agents that are Zillow Flex agents, they're saying stuff like this. Like that's hard.
Yeah, well, so it's like if you do what Zillow wants you to do, you get rewarded with more leads. If you don't do what they want you to do, they actually might kick you out of the program. And there's
Yeah.
actually a chart in the complaint that goes over this. And then the form is an opt-in form. So when you click on it, it automatically has the box checked.
That's the one right here.
Yeah, yeah, I'm interested in this. And so it's automatically checked. It's the default. checked. And so consumers get sent there without even knowing this is what the complaint says. So it's like, no, it's, and Zillow gets all this traffic. And so agents want these leads from Zillow. But to go back, and you don't go back, but if you go back and read the law itself, where it says, hey, if you're participating, you could be violating RESPA as a participant,
Oh,
not
wait,
just
this one right
Zillow.
here or which one?
Um, One of the first ones where it says right here, no person shall
Ah,
give
yeah.
and no person shall accept any fee, kickback, or anything of value. So if you're sending the business and they're sending you more leads, aren't you accepting?
Yep,
And so
yep.
couldn't you somehow, and I'm just kind of making this up, but
Well, they've
couldn't you
been,
somehow, the
yeah,
government come and say, hey, you violated RESPA. You were involved in this program. You were taking leads, quid pro quo. You were providing them and you were getting something in return. And you might find yourself somewhere you don't want to be just because you participated in this program. It's just kind of fascinating to me. Again, John and I taught real estate classes for decades,
yeah.
and RESPA is always a big thing, and it's always kind of interesting and often misunderstood. This was also part of the complaint itself,
Yeah,
where they
what am I
went through
looking at
and,
right here?
yeah, you're eligible to grow or you're not. We'll kick you out of the program. So it's just kind of interesting. And now here's the other side of that. Sellers want their listings on Zillow.
Yeah, well, and that's the current situation with Compass and Zillow, right? As well. It's the same challenge.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sellers want their listings on Zillow and consumers go to Zillow to look for properties. And so, like, who's
Yeah,
going to say to Zillow, we're not going to put our listings on your site? I know what I say? Try it. Right?
yeah,
Because the seller's going to be calling them up right away saying,
yeah.
how come
Yeah,
my
always
listings aren't on
happens.
Zillow?
It happens often with our listings. Anytime something doesn't reciprocate correctly because of some tech problem, we get a call from the client. Hey, we don't see our listing on Zillow yet. What happened? I'm like,
Yeah.
relax, it's almost on. Don't worry.
Yeah. Here at our MLS, I get it frequently.
Interesting. All right. So with this, I mean, we haven't even touched on the other six or five. I don't even remember how many. But we find out Compass, Zillow, probably end of December, right? This one is going to go through into 2026, the one we're
Yeah.
talking about right now. Where are we at with that? And do you think it really will change anything? Or do you think they'll just get a slap on the wrist, they'll throw in more disclosures, and that's the end of it?
Well, with RESPA, what's typically the remedy, John? Fines?
Yeah, I mean it's through the governmental enforcement of it is fines. But I'm interested now as they move it into a class action type of case, and they throw in there also breach of fiduciary duty. That's the big part of it
Of
because
the
now
agent.
it's gonna, yeah, the agents. And of course another term that always comes up with RESPA is the definition of in the kickback. What is the thing of value that you're getting in return for it? This is where we've had vendors, for example, who used to give luncheons, and they would
Mm,
pay for the luncheon, and some people would look at that with
Hmm.
RESPA eyes, but RESPA didn't do that much. But now that everybody's all jazzed about class actions and the level of judgments amount, and the fact that we've got some pretty high end attorneys in these cases,
On both ends.
well,
that's right.
John, you bring up a good point. So the you could be as an agent, you could be, and again, I'm just speculating that it's a class action lawsuit. So a lot of individuals involved, and not only Zillow, but agents who breach their fiduciary duty by only sending the client to Zillow to get the loan. Isn't
Yep.
that what they're saying? Breach of fiduciary duty. So I'm an agent. I participated in this program. It's maybe far fetched, but maybe not that far fetched to say that all of the agents that participated could be found somehow in breach of fiduciary duty and have to defend themselves. I mean, this is going to be interesting to watch.
I I'm not so I don't know on that one because my first assumption is if they settle, first of all, this is a if they lose, right? If they do lose or they settle, this is hundreds of millions of dollars. Like this isn't a small one. That's number one.
Right.
If they do settle, wouldn't it be a normal thing to include all the agents that have worked with them and are currently working with them in the umbrella of the settlement or no?
Well, maybe not. Remember, there's two things here. There's the class action, but then there's the violation of the law of right. And so while Zillow could settle itself and its participants out, that doesn't mean that the government doesn't come after all the participants, because this is the suit we're talking about right now is Armstrong against Zillow for violation of RESPA. Who enforces RESPA, John? FTC?
Federal Trade Commission.
Right? Who's to say that the government couldn't come in? And again, we're just kind of it's early,
Yeah, it
but
is
just
early.
kind of speculating on, it's going to be interesting to watch.
Well,
This
maybe
is interesting.
the government would likely come in with those statements of interest, right? That we saw in the earlier cases where the DOJ files a statement of interest. We're not a party, but however, because this is talking about our RESPA rules, we feel our opinion is thus, and they would give it to the judge to consider.
That's
Yeah, and if it
true.
was deemed to be a violation of RESPA, the government's almost obligated to come in. Now they got this whole batch of people that have violated the law.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, look, worst case scenario, they get hit with multi hundreds of millions in a lawsuit, right? In this lawsuit that they have to settle with. And their whole plan that they've been telling the whole world about, which is they're going to integrate, right? Everything's going to be all in one place. It's a super app. That
Yeah.
kind of falls apart. Because now what, right? That's like worst case scenario.
Well, and that might be one of the remedies, if the plaintiffs prevail, that would be that they are not allowed to move forward in a program like that. I mean, the consequence of who knows what they are. I'm curious how many people are in the class, right? Is it like 1,000 people,
Yeah.
10,000 people? How many people actually got Zillow home loans that might sign up and be a member of the class that's involved here? I don't know what that number is.
Well,
Well, I can tell you one thing. According to Riz Media, I did look this up. It says the plaintiffs are seeking up to $25,000 per class member under the RICO and RESPA claims. And I'm trying to find how many people are in the class action lawsuit. I don't know yet, but I did find that.
Yes.
well, all you have to ask is how many people are watching television that are suddenly seeing
That's too
these
many,
ads.
John. There's got to be
No,
a
no,
limit.
seeing all those attorney ads saying, "Oh yeah, mesothelioma, we can handle that case."
Oh my God, that's too
Yeah,
crazy. Well, to me, I feel like this isn't going to slow down as far as class action lawsuits, especially when we're looking at who's behind this one. It's part of the same team that sued NAR, right? So when we're looking at this and saying, well, once they're done with this one, right? My guess is because we also said they're going after Zillow a year ago. I'm like, they're going to go after Zillow, of course. My guess is next they go after Compass. Like with all of the red flags we're getting with their three-phase marketing plan, Compass has brilliant attorneys too, but come on, like that's out in the open saying, "Come and get me, everybody, come and get me." Like
Zillow just
how do they not
Zillow
go
just
after them?
Zillow just picked up NAR's attorney and
Oh,
hired him.
I mean, I guess that's a good play as long as you have a good set of attorneys on the other end too, because
Yeah,
they learned from their loss. They're like, we could have done this better,
Well,
right?
here's something else. They're saying that this is a per se violation. And remember from the Sitzer case, remember we talked about two ways to judge a lawsuit for antitrust. One is per se, which means it's just illegal. We're not even going to decide whether you broke the law. You did. The other
Wow.
is rule of reason, where you could say, well, maybe we broke the law, but a lot of good things happened. And what they're saying here in this case is that they're claiming this is a per se violation, just like the Sitzer case was a per
Got
se
it.
violation. That meant all of NAR's testimony in the Sitzer case, nobody paid it, the jurors didn't pay any attention to it because
Judge wouldn't need it.
it's per se. So this is also per se. So again, there's just lots of pieces to this. Interesting to watch. I wish everybody a lot of luck moving forward.
Yeah, that's
I
going to be nuts, man. Well, you also, both of you sent me something different times that CAR went ahead and approved the contracts in consideration to the referrals, the
Referrals.
transparency to referrals that are being handed out. I think at this point, whether we like it or not, it's a good idea to be as transparent as possible with everything in the transaction. Somebody in a post in Lab Coat says, "Well, does that mean like we should be telling everybody how much we're getting paid on everything?" I'm like, "Listen, if it comes to it, I'd rather tell everybody everything than
so
have to
you
worry."
so you're what we're down to is the principles in an agency relationship.
Yeah.
The principals
Good
have
good
the
good
right,
verbiage, Saul.
right? The principals have the right to all material facts. And maybe the amount that the person who represents them is being compensated is a material fact. And so, do you want to guess as to whether or not you disclosed them, or do you want to just play it safe? And everything leans towards transparency. And this kind of spin off from, remember last time we talked about NAR met in Houston and the board of directors passed this. You need to disclose referral fees, and the delegate body didn't pass it. And so it's kind of like NAR for probably for good reason, like wasn't clear enough as to how you implement it. And it was a very close vote by the delegate body, but basically they pushed this down the road. Well, CAR said, we're not pushing this down the road.
Thank goodness.
Right. We're going to say right now, here's a new form. Or maybe it's a revision to a form, the RAD form. And they put out this information today from the president of CAR. And so again, I know we're all, or at least I'm a member. I know you are, John, and you probably were at one time a member of organized real estate in California. So they always attempt to do the right thing, right? And
Hmm.
so, yeah, well, now this leads me to another point around leads and referrals. So leads, the Zillow case, online leads, the production, the ROI, who knows what the ROI is, but the fact is, if 100 million people go to Zillow in a month and only 4 million people transact, 4 million properties get sold in a year, most of those contacts are not leads. And so in my mind, there's this continuum of a lead. And that continuum starts with the suspect. So everybody you meet's a suspect. And then some of those people you meet have the need for your service. So they're a prospect. And then some of those people you can turn them into a client. So it goes suspect, prospect, client. Well, suspects, I used to kid, that's like the phone book. People would say, I want leads. I'd say, here's the phone book. I have agents work for me. Oh, here you go. Here's a whole bunch. Yeah, but they don't. Yeah, no, they're suspects, right? And prospects, people who are on this continuum to transact, somewhere on the
Mm,
continuum to transact. Now we know that people that go to Realtor.com and Zillow and Troya, they're probably not necessarily way up on the continuum to transact. They're way down the line. And what we want is we want people who are more ready to buy. And we want people where trust has already been established. So a referral is a much better lead than an internet lead is. And
that's
so, how
right.
can you develop more of those types of leads, referrals? And you can do that through prospecting people who have already built trust. I told John I started to work on an article I wrote 20 years, 30 years ago, but since some of the websites are no longer around and there's new ways to do things, I reworked this article. It's up to 3,500 words, which is way too many. But people need to be looking at, in my mind, ways to generate business beyond the leads that come in that require so much cultivation before they actually turn into cash for you.
That's true. I could see that. And that's a great way of looking at it too. I did look up how many people just could have an issue with the whole Zillow thing because John said everybody who's watching the news. John is right. It pretty much said, it said, we're talking about potentially millions of home buyers over a 4-year period who clicked on those contact agent or request a tour buttons and ended up with Zillow affiliated agents or mortgages. So, yeah, John's right.
That that information is going to be available through discovery. I think we need more information on the process of discovery because that's where all the jewels are in the case.
I love that.
Well, so how many years? 4 years, 5 years, did you say?
Four.
4 years. So let's say 5 million transactions. In 4 years, that's 20 million, but not all 20 million got a Zillow home loan.
No.
So of the 20 million, what's that number?
80 saying here's that number from Riz Media. Zillow claims 66% of the US real estate audience search Zillow, with 80% of the consumers coming directly to its platform. That's crazy. 80% consumers coming directly to the platform.
I believe that, but how many of them then actually got the Zillow loan?
Yeah, that's the jewels part that John is talking about.
Yeah.
That's funny. Even if they didn't get the loan, they still got steered that way, right?
Yeah, they might have been damaged in some way and they didn't get the who knows.
Right? If.
You use the magic word, steering. Steering once again pops up in these cases.
Crazy. It's crazy, man. Like this is all nutty to me.
It's the John, Tristan, and Saul full. It's not really employment, but it gives us plenty to talk about.
That's so true.
It's not a livelihood.
Not yet. Not yet. Who knows? Who knows? Thanks, guys. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks.
I stay on top of things thanks to you guys. So I appreciate your expertise, your knowledge, and just showing up on this. So thank you.
Always fun. Thanks, Tristan. See you, John.
Thanks, everybody else.